2002 Audi Quattro A6, 2.4 liter gas rear brake disc replacement. Required spare parts: brake discs and brake pads. Required tools: gloves, spray lubricant, ratchet handle, 17mm socket, 13mm socket or 13mm wrench, 8mm hex head socket, torsion bar, pipe tongs, scissors, vice grips, heavy-duty screwdriver, pan for screws and bolts. Let's find a suitable place for the jack. Situate the jack. Loosen the bolts on the tires before lifting the tires off the ground. Please note that it's good to ensure that the jack lifts properly. A suitable do-it-yourself solution is a safety block. Now the bolts can be removed from the tires. When working outside, it's good to place the bolts in a pan in order to keep them from getting dirty. After removing the tire, we'll use a 13mm wrench or socket to detach the bolts from the brake cylinder. If the bolt spins without an opening, we will require a 15mm wrench to hold the inner nut. After this, we can detach the brake cylinder. This requires some force, so it's good to use a heavy-duty screwdriver as leverage. Before detaching the cylinder, remember to check that the handbrake is not on, as otherwise the cylinder will not detach. Now the brake pads are easy to remove. After this, let's use an 8mm hex head socket to detach the bolts from the brake caliper. And remove the brake caliper. Now the brake disc is loose and can be replaced. After this, we'll use vice grips and pipe tongs to turn the brake piston inwards. Please note that the piston must be turned, not pressed. Audi also has a special tool for this operation, but turning works well with pipe tongs as long as one takes care not to damage the dust cover. Now we can put the brake caliper back into place. And then the bolts. It's good to lubricate the bolts a bit in order to make it easy to take them off again the next time. The bolts are tightened with an 8mm hex head socket. Since the brake disc is normally attached with the same bolts that hold the tire, it can now move freely. When installing the cylinder, the brake disc can be temporarily attached with the same bolts without the tire. Special pad insulators are available to keep the brake pads from squealing. They have to be cut to the proper size with scissors. Now the insulators can be attached to the brake pads and the pads can be put in place. After this, we place the brake cylinder. If necessary, the brake piston can still be turned inwards. And then we'll replace the brake cylinder bolts. And tighten them with a 13mm wrench or socket. Remember to remove the bolts that we used to hold the brake disc during installation. It's also good to lubricate the tire bolts or the internal threads. After this, we'll mount the tire. To ensure stable rotation, the tire bolts should be tightened diametrically. Now we remove the safety block and lower the car. And finally, make sure that the tire bolts are completely tight.